everyone. This is me, Michelle and Tackett, and I'm here with the lovely, vivacious Erica Burns. And hello, Erica.
Hi, how are you doing today, Michelle?
Pretty good, sweetheart. I hope you're doing well, too. I have another question for you. This one's going to be kind of a tough question. It's about your experience in the workplace, like workplace discrimination. How has it been? Has it been really bad, noticeable, or is it more of a subtle attack?
That's a very good question. Well, I will tell you my experience in the workplace has been a mixed baggage. With what little, experience I've had, I don't want to sell myself short, but, I suppose my experience is somewhat limited compared to other individuals who have had more experiences, and it largely has to do with just my own ability to thrive in life in general due to my ability to get the care I needed when I was younger and even now. And so it's hard to be able to thrive in a work setting just with that alone, not to mention any oppression that may be coming from outside of myself and outside of my inability to fully transition and get the support and help I need and care I need. I was fortunate in California when I was out there, and I may go back, that's quite possible at this point for the care I need, but when I was out there initially, I worked at a telemarketing call center, and it was nice. It was very, accepting and supportive for the most part. I actually found out about the job through another trans woman I had been rooming with at the time, and that was helpful for me to have that job because I was able to walk to it from my apartment. It was very flexible, so I was able to go on auditions whenever I needed and do other things outside of just that job, and I was blessed in that sense to really have that job. Unfortunately, it just wasn't sustainable for the long term, but while I was there, there were a number of trans individuals who came into the office to make calls who were calling on behalf of various progressive organizations, some of which were fighting for LGBTQ rights, particularly trans rights. And so that was really thrilling to some.
I have the same experience here in Indianapolis, which there are some really nice places that are very open and accepting, but you still have to tread water on which businesses are good and which ones aren't. Even places that are accepting, sometimes it still takes adjustments. Like, one of my bosses had trouble referring to me as she for the first couple of times. Then it became like second nature to them. There was still a little adjustment time needed
before they started to fully, address you as such and, give you the treatment you deserved.
Just like I think we need sensitivity training for each gender and race, I also think we need training on how to treat LGBTQ people, especially the T and Q.
Yes.
So that way it won't be such a shock and it won't be such an adjustment. Because I do think some people aren't bad. It's just that they're so used to acting a certain way to cisgender people that when they have to interact with a trans person, it can become muddied water, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely. Because it's just, they see it from their own perspective and their own cisgender lens where they never had to think about the things we have to think about. And so, they don't always want to or feel like they need to, develop that critical awareness to really, see the importance and the significance of catering to us and our needs.
Exactly. And sometimes, even I do this. We all get to the point where we're like, oh, well, they're just bad people. No, some people just genuinely live in such a myopic view that they just don't understand.
Yeah, absolutely.
And some people are just discriminatory jerks. That's true, but some aren't.
Right.
Some are just, it's like trying to understand transgender and queer people, non-binary and stuff. It's like a language from outer space or something.
Yes.
Because our society has taught so much about rigid binary gender ideals and stuff.
People see that as just the norm, or they see that as just that's how it is, or that's just how naturally, as a natural course of things, and look at these individuals going against that. Like, why are they doing that? But it's like, no, it's not. It's been a lot of that is a social construct. It's not just simply, the natural course of things. That's gender binary.
I mean, and if you look at the history, it rarely was like that. if you look at Native American cultures and a lot of Asian and African cultures, it was never really like that.
Exactly.
So
individuals like ourselves are revered in those cultures at times. In the Native American culture, look at the two-spirited individual, and Indian culture, there's the Hijra, third gender, and they have a place for individuals who differ from, I'm sure it's not perfect, and there's still issues, and there's still discrimination and bullying. I watched a documentary about, of course, which is an offensive term here in America, but ladyboys in Thailand, and even though there is a place for individuals, transgender individuals in Thailand, they still have dealt with discrimination and bullying.
Here's something that we have to deal with in our own community. It's shocked belief that people don't think that there are T and Q people out there who want to be traditional housewives and homemakers. Like, we're human just like everyone else, and there are cisgender women and men who are stay-at-home people and homemakers. Well, why should it be such a shock when you find out that a non-binary or trans person wants to do that?
Absolutely. I think there's this pressure even among the community to feel like we have to go against the grain altogether because we were rejected. So therefore, we have to live this big city, fast-paced, expensive, sometimes living in squalor lifestyle of some sort of martyrdom that is social martyrdom that is not necessarily a very fulfilling, wholesome life that we should have been able to live all along.
Yeah,
but
so
there's that pressure to maintain that, like for the sake of just the cause and everything, perhaps.
Yeah, I think that is a part of it, especially when you tell people in the LGBTQ community you want to do it for a man. Oh, wow. I'm just like, okay, so what if somebody wants to do it for their partner who happens to be a man?
Right.
Like, there are cisgendered, heterosexual male allies out there. And as long as they're good to that person and to our cause, it really shouldn't matter.
Exactly. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, love is love, and you should be able to find that and experience that in life, and that is a fulfilling thing in itself.
I've been meeting a lot of trans women as of late who want to be like me. I thought I was kind of a lone wolf, but I've met a lot of trans women who like to put on their apron and stay home and stuff, and I'm like, it just goes to show that we're just people.
Exactly. We are. At the end of the day, that's what we want. I know when I was younger, I may have mentioned this in a previous interview, but if I would just, clean my parents' house, thoroughly, clean the bathrooms, and then after I was done, I'd treat myself to the latest episode of Desperate Housewives before having to go back to horrible 8th grade the next day. So, I was ready to stay at home long before, the time, that it's acceptable to start, settling down and getting married.
It's more fashionable now, I'd say. Even our own community just has to realize, like, okay, all right, so this doesn't make them anti-LGBTQ. I think there's a negative connotation because I'm in a bunch of housewife groups, and I was in one where a woman went after me, and, like, every person in the board, and there were, like, 4,000 or 5,000 people there, were going after her, saying, leave Michelle alone. She's a woman. She's our sister. She's our fellow housewife and homemaker. And I started to cry. I was like, see, this is not the kind of reaction I expected. I thought a few people would stand up. But see, according to the stereotype that stay-at-home women are more conservative, bigoted, outdated, and that they don't believe in equal rights for trans people. Well, that just isn't the truth always. It's not.
It isn't. Yeah. I think this goes to show that, even in our community, like with some individuals, like the only thing we may have in common with them is the fact that we are trans. And there's so many other things that are different about us. Like for me, just knowing I'm a creative individual, I have a lot of acquaintances and friends who are trans, and they're doing a completely separate thing for me in their lives, and are in a lot of ways much different outside of the fact that we're just trans and we're fighting that same fight. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's just important for us all to realize that that's what we're doing. We're fighting the same fight, and And in the case of, housewives groups and stuff, if there's cis women involved and then there's a trans individual, a trans woman, then it's just a matter of also seeing the similarities there and then also the differences and celebrating those differences, but, also seeing the common ground.
Last thing, what would be the advice you would give to young trans people who do think differently, but want people, even in their own community, to understand their point of view or how to face discrimination in the workplace?
In the workplace, absolutely. Well, I just want to say that, sadly, there are still workplaces that are discriminatory, that are not supportive, that are not safe places for a trans individual to work. And I do believe awareness is being brought to that. And this is, certainly not an overnight kind of a thing. I think it's just, at the end of the day, it's important that we don't compromise ourselves, and that sometimes we do have to take risks. Those things, we do have to go through really hard things to get to a better place. But at the end of the day, is it really going to be worth it if we don't fight for ourselves and our own rights, even if we have a safety net with a job and security, if we're still miserable because we're not being true to who we are, celebrating that? And of course, that's easier said than done, but I just want younger people to know that also that I'm fighting the good fight, and there's a lot of other people also out there like you, Michelle, that are fighting that fight to make it a better place in the workforce, so that there isn't so much anxiety when it comes to getting up every day to go to work, if that is the kind of thing one ends up doing.
Exactly, Erica. Thank you for your wisdom and stuff, and I'm going to put the links and stuff to Erica's socials below. Please check her out. But anyway, well, next time we will have a nice discussion about dating as a trans person.
Oh, that sounds, yes. That's a big one too.
Yeah. Well, you have a wonderful weekend, Erica, and take care.
Yes, you too, Michelle.
All right. Bye.
Bye.